leadership nominee speeches. Carter, I know you wanted to bring up something in pre-meeting.
I can wait till the agenda review.
You want to do that at your agenda review?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I'm not going to force anybody to give a speech if they don't want to, but I'm going to kind of open it up for those that do want to give that speech. And then I think there was a request for maybe some questions. I don't know how council feels about asking questions towards some of the members. If you guys are cool with that, we can, if there's any follow-up questions, you guys are good with that? Okay. All right. Awesome. All right. I'll open that up for mayor. And I know we have Steve and Lisa that are put in for mayor. So Steve, you
Ladies first.
all right. Lisa,
Do I go to the podium?
where do we need him at?
I think you're fine there, but
Yeah.
whatever you'd like to do.
You're good here.
All right, well, let's see here. Kind of try to narrow all of my years of experience down to a couple minutes. So I guess within my years of experience, I have the ability to foster collaboration and lead with my values. I have managed multiple companies and have owned a couple of businesses. Being a small business owner, I understand the complexities of putting together budgets and what it takes to run a successful company. Among many other positions, I have written, awarded, and reported to the federal government for the TANF grants, administered student loans and Pell Grants, reported and followed YDOT trucking requirements, as well as the Department of Education. And then as a realtor, I am the past president of the Casper Board of Realtors in the Wyoming MLS. I have served as the Central District Vice President for multiple years and was the Realtor RPAC Chairwoman for our local board as well as the state, advocating for private property rights and educating realtors to get involved with government. I have a strong commitment to my community through service and have always believed that if you see something that needs to be changed, then it is our responsibility to step up and be the change that we want to be. Leadership isn't about the loudest person in the room or even the smartest person in the room. And as Harry S. Truman stated, it is amazing what you can accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit.
Mr. Kathy.
Good naval veteran, spent 17 years with Conoco, traveling all over the southern U.S. They moved me here. 94, I started my own oil and gas consulting business. And in 05, I took a business partner and we grew it into a multi-million-dollar company before the oil business crashed in 15. And we kept it going though, and merged with Goolsby Finley and Associates here in town in 2020. And right now we have we have supervision on 2 of the rigs running in Wyoming, and we manage for our clients. Each one of these wells that we're drilling right now are running about $5 million a piece. So we are managing our clients' money. We did the engineering work, the on-site supervision, all of the planning and coordination, and all we've ever done has been able to grow the business through word of mouth and our reputation as being honest, reliable. You tell the clients what they need to hear, not necessarily what they want to hear. And was a member of the ski patrol here for 14 years, patrol director for 2 years. It was an excellent patrol. As a matter of fact, one of those 2 years, we were the outstanding volunteer ski patrol for the Northern Division. I wound up heading up the ad hoc committee that put together the massage therapist licensing and rules and regulations. When I retire, and will be my last year on council. I'll make that announcement tonight. I am not running for re-election, and this is it. And I will have been on council for 9.5 years at that time, and I would love to be the mayor of this city for at least one of those years. And I was vice mayor back when Daniel Sandoval was the mayor. I was the vice mayor, and lost that election to Chris Walsh, but then the council thought enough of me at that time when he resigned that you reappointed me to council, and I won that next election then, and I am serving out that term.
Thank you.
And I'm old.
And then Lisa also has her name in for vice mayor. Did you want to say anything, Amber?
Sure. So I have declined leadership nominations several years in a row now, primarily because I have really wanted to spend my council time dedicated to some more specific issues. I've accumulated a number of committees over the 3 years that I've been serving on council, and have enjoyed spending my council hours into some of those specific purposes. But I agreed to accept this nomination this time in the event that we elect Lisa as mayor. I didn't want to put us in a position where we were then scrambling to fill a vice mayor role, since just the way the ballot shook out. And so if it's the will of the council to have me refocus some of my efforts maybe away from some of those specific issues and committee issues to the broader sort of operations of council, I would be happy and honored to do that. I will just summarize some of the skills and I think value that I bring to the council and how those might apply to that particular role. The first is my ability to understand complex issues. I've worked, and actually some of my favorite moments working on council have been on some of our larger, more complicated, more complex problems and issues. Things that have lots of moving parts are the things that excite me the most. So I love to dig into those things. I think I have a good ability to understand those things and also to synthesize the various interests and help us formulate path forward, understanding those interests and kind of using those to inform us in a pragmatic and logical direction. And then the second skill that I think I bring to the table in this role would be I'm a diplomatic and effective communicator, both publicly and also in committees and community settings. So I believe that you could trust me to represent the council's interests and positions professionally and accurately whenever I'm called upon to do that, whether that be in a public setting or in individual conversations throughout the community. So with that said, I think I'm not in a position where I can dedicate additional time than what I'm already dedicating to council, because I have gotten progressively more involved in more committees and more things over the years, which I have enjoyed doing. So should you want me to fill in this role, I think I would need to reshuffle some of my council priorities and focus my efforts towards leadership and possibly away from some of my individual committee assignments. But if you feel like that would be of value to the council, I would be happy to do so.
Thank you, Amber.
Yep.
Does anybody have any follow-up questions for any of the candidates? Okay. Thanks, Mayor.
Mostly for the mayoral candidates. Like the thing I'm looking for most in whoever fills the role is being a good meeting facilitator, making sure that we stay on track with the agenda, making sure that the conduct in the chambers remains professional. And so I guess my question would be, I think there's been some great examples of that. Ray's done a great job. There's been a couple times where you've had to clear the room because we've had some unruly behavior. I thought former Mayor Friel did a really good job keeping us on track, but also not letting ego get in the way. One thing I really liked about former Mayor Friel is he was always last to speak. He was always giving us all the opportunity to voice our opinions before he spoke, and I think that's something that was lacking in the most recent person to have filled the chair. And so I guess my question for the mayoral candidates is, how do you expect to change your behavior, if at all, if you're in that role as opposed to when you're sitting here? Do you, I guess that's my question. Do you expect any change in the way that you conduct yourselves in our meetings, or do you plan to essentially operate as, per the status quo? What changes do you see the role having in the way that you conduct yourselves in our meetings?
Lisa?
in my opinion, we are a team and a team of one. And so a decision and nothing can happen without all of us. So I don't think that the mayor has the right to supersede and overstep the rest of council. And so I believe that council absolutely has a voice, and it's an important voice, and it needs to be listened to.
I know you're probably referring that to me more so than anything, because I do have a tendency to throw out my opinions early on. And I have no problem not throwing those out and waiting and actually being more of a summarizer, which is what really the chairman should be doing, is summarizing what he sees from everybody else, and maybe throw out just a little tidbit of what their opinion is, but then try to summarize what he has heard from all of the council members. And the other thing about it is too, and you've noticed that on a couple of things, that I've been the one vote in the opposite direction, but I have always supported what the council decided. And I have not gone out and made public statements to the press to the contrary or anything else. What the council decides is what the council decides. And even if you are a dissenter, you have to support the council position. And you have to be able to understand it. May not agree with it, but we don't always have to agree. And by the way, I want to apologize for the way I look tonight. I spent 5 hours in a hard hat out on a job location this morning, and you don't even want to see my hat here. So.
Say anything like that. No. Good. Any other questions for mayor candidates or the vice mayor? Yeah, Michael.
I guess I would like to know from each of the candidates, have your thoughts about is one of the roles of the mayor to be a spokesperson for council? And if so, what kind of drives that communication when the mayor is put in that position to be the spokesperson? When and if, I guess.
So as we've sat through many meetings and the discussion has come up multiple times to collaborate with the city manager and the city attorney, and that would be my full intent at all times. Because the mayor would be the spokesperson and have to facilitate the meetings. And so I think that it is important to make sure that we're not sidestepping and then throwing in our own opinion when it is not the opinion of the council or of the city government. It is just strictly our opinion, and in this role, I don't believe our opinion really matters.
I think she's exactly right. You are the spokesman for the council. It is your position to represent the council. And I hadn't even, well, I got the phone call, but I finally saw the article in Oil City News today. And if you noticed, I said the full council supported the CMAR, and that we felt that that was a good position, and basically hit the talking points of what Mr. Brower had said. And that's what the mayor needs to do, is to facilitate the wishes of the council.
Any other questions for the mayor, candidates, vice mayor? Okay.
I do have the time.
Okay. Don't know about that.
I have lots of time. I have an amazing staff, and they are a tremendous support system for me. And so it's, so arranging schedules or whatever. The only issue is the 7 a.m. breakfast. So I'm not a fan of, but you know, we can do these things.
And I would reiterate on that point. I hope I laid out kind of clearly what my constraints are, because I don't want to set up any expectations that I can't meet for you all. So it would take some reorganization of other council priorities for me to take on these additional roles. So I would leave that to you to determine if that's how my allocated time for council is best spent.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. We appreciate it. Thank you for chatting. And so we will do that at the end of the meeting, Ms. Ruppel. Executive session, we'll be doing that. Okay. Perfect. All right, thank you. Anything else I'm missing? Okay. Carter, agenda review.
Thank you, Mayor, councilors. I wanted to bring up some follow-up, if you will, as a part of this item in the pre-meeting agenda. There was a lot of talk the last time we met pertaining to the rezone request that is being proposed to the county at the corner of Wyoming Boulevard and Gannett. And in terms of a loose description of the item I'm talking about here. One of the things that I think got maybe a little confused in the conversation was with regard to traffic and traffic data and those kinds of things. Without a doubt, if this should move forward and a development takes place under the new zoning curriculum and those kinds of things, a traffic study will be required. That's a very typical step that we take when it comes time to new site plans, developments, and so on. So I would tell you that as you go through this and hear conversation, traffic studies are going to be a feature of whatever development takes place over there. Even if the zoning doesn't change and the developer wants to move forward with a development of some kind that fits within the PUD, right? Nonetheless, I did have staff look into some of the data that already exists for the subject area as it relates to traffic crashes and those kinds of things. And we can address some of that data that we have historically. But the overall statement I want to kind of have you remember as it relates to what we found out in our review, if you will, of the existing data, is the statement that I'm about to read here. The proposed zone change from PUD to C2 is not expected to change existing levels of service in the intersection or cause adverse effects. Now, if you'd like, we can certainly pose some questions to Mr. Brower and to the chief as to why they believe that that will be the case. And so we are prepared to deal with at least a rudimentary level of questions in that regard. But I wanted you to be aware that we do not believe, from a traffic standpoint, that we're going to see adverse effects with regard to developments that take place, particularly if the zone change does move to a C2, should your direction go that way. Okay. So if you'd like to entertain some questions, we're prepared to answer some of those, and or if we need to do a little more homework, we can do that too.
Okay. Anybody have questions in regard to this in preparation for that ordinance? No. Okay. Yeah. Kyle.
I mean, I wouldn't mind, I don't have a specific question, but I wouldn't mind just a broad overview of why we don't expect any impact, because my understanding is that that corner's been vacant for a long time, hasn't it? And so I was just, you know, any development seems to me to have an impact over no development, so it's just, I don't mind broad overview.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, if I may ask the chief and Mr. Brower to come up and offer a couple thoughts in that regard. So why they believe this, that'd be great. Thank you.
Chief.
Mayor, council, I appreciate the inquiry into this. We took a hard look at the volume of traffic that occurs in that main intersection, which is the intersection of Southeast Wyoming Boulevard and Gannett. A lot of cars go through that, and we were just, I mean, it is so minimal on the percentage of problems that we're having there. If you eliminate the weather-related ones that are directly related to ice, snow, and just horrible driving conditions, it's one of the probably one of the more safe intersections we have in town. Now, transposing that back, say 50 yards to the intersection of Gannett and Shannon, there was one crash at that intersection. In between, opposite of Gannett and that, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. The one crash at Gannett and Shannon was 100%. Didn't involve another traveling vehicle. It involved a parked car under snow and ice conditions that somebody just ran off the side of the road, hit a parked car. There were no crashes at the exits of the private parking, commercial areas across from that. So there's the exit from what has been a bank and exit from what has been a restaurant. That whole Ridley's complex, there were no identifiable crashes at any time in the last 5 years. Gannett is a thoroughfare for a fairly broad residential area. A lot of cars travel that, and the absolute lack of crashes that are attributable to any portion of that roadway is demonstrative to us. And so if there happens to be a future development, as Carter has indicated, that is going to dramatically increase the flow of vehicles entering or exiting into that complex, we're going to have to look at that anyway. But for the last 5 years, once you eliminate the snow and ice condition ones, we're just not having a problem. Nor do I anticipate that it's going to all of a sudden rear its head and be a problem.
Do you have anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, councilors and Mr. Mayor. Hats off to Shad Rogers and the traffic department, streets department. They immediately went out there after the last meeting and did traffic counts. So we did traffic counts on Gannett and we did traffic counts on that kind of goofy exit of that parking lot. Remember the one with the big dog bone in front of it? And the number of traffic counts coming in and out of that parking lot, there seemed to, it wasn't a large number, but it was more than I would suspect. And again, we attributed most of that to people that are going to Ridley's, people that live in that neighborhood that don't have to get on Wyoming Boulevard, turn left on Wyoming Boulevard, and then turn back into Ridley's. And it was, again, a very modest amount. And the traffic on Gannett at all times maintained our level of service of a C. So keep in mind, traffic is rated just like our grades in school, A through F. And our goal is we want it to be a C, and it's well below the maximum to be a C. The interesting thing is those traffic counts were really peaked at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And so it's after school traffic. You know, we know there's challenges that we're actively working on at 12th and Walsh to try and, you know, help relieve some of those in the absence of putting 4-lane roads in each direction. We're not going to completely relieve those, but try and relieve those. But, you know, as I was reminded, people are like electricity and water. They take the path of least resistance. And so the kid can leave Kelly Walsh and turn left and go down Gannett to get to Wyoming Boulevard. That's where it appears. So you had these low traffic counts, and then you saw the spike every day at 3, Monday through Friday. So it was really obvious what was taking place. Overall, level of service C is easily maintained in there, and we do not see a problem as it exists now. And, you know, depends on the traffic counts for the future development, which will cross that bridge when we come to it. We really do not see a problem on Gannett, Thelma, or Gannett, Wyoming Boulevard.
Okay. Any follow-up questions for the chief or Tom? Okay. Yeah. No, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Mayor, Council, just kind of maybe a little bit of a fine point, but when you're judging this statement in the report, it's not really, I don't think, appropriate to say developed versus no development. What the standard would be is looking at the zone change. And so how do you rate that? Well, if you're going to a zoning classification that would allow bigger types of developments, industrial or so forth, then you could expect under some types of use to have increased traffic counts. I think it's important to remember here that it's a PUD. It could be developed without the zone change, but changing it to a C2 is not going to actually broaden the number of uses. It's going to restrict them. And so thus the finding that making the zone change would not result in, you know, additional taxes on services or traffic counts, and regardless of what type of, you know, development that might be, if that makes sense.
Yep. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Oh, yeah, go ahead now.
For Tom.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. I didn't know if we could do anything about the feedback before our meeting started. that'll be a little distracting.
And the microphone has a little bit of feedback. Do we know? Get that adjusted before we start our meeting. Thanks, Kyle. Thank you. Okay, is everybody ready to move into the business meeting? Yep. Is that all you needed, Carter?
Yes, sir.
From that, okay. Okay, moving to our business meeting. Before we begin the evening, I would like to remind everyone to please silence their cell phones. And council meetings are live streamed on the city's YouTube channel. I now call the December 5th, 2023 regular council meeting to order. The chair would entertain a motion to by minute action to excuse the absence of Councillor Haskins.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Pollock, seconded by Councillor Kathy. All voting aye, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Please record the vote.
With all councilors voting aye, the motion passes.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please read the consent minute approval titles.
Minutes of the November 21st, 2023 regular council meeting is published in the Casper Star Tribune on December 5th, 2023. And the minutes of the November 21st, 2023 Casper City Council executive session.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent minute action agenda items just read. Moved by Councillor Gamroff, seconded by Councillor Jensen. Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye, say aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote.
With all councilors voting aye, the motion passes.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the December 5th, 2023 bills and claims as audited by City Manager Napier.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Bond, seconded by Councillor Sutherland. Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye, say aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote.
With all councilors voting aye, the motion passes.
Thank you. Communications from people present here. Now is the time we invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak with the council to come forward. This portion of the meeting is dedicated to the public to allow them time to voice their concerns. Therefore, council will take communication in their advisement. But if they choose to respond, that will be done at a later time. When you come on up, please state your name. Direct all questions and comments to the mayor and only the mayor. No personal obscenities or threats will be tolerated. Council will not respond to any personnel matters. So those will all be referred to the city manager. If council chooses to address these matters, it will be done during the introduction of measures and proposals by council at the end of the meeting. Presentations are limited to 5 minutes and there will be no time extensions. Please note that public hearings and ordinances each have their own comment period. So if you're here for a certain ordinance or conversation, please wait to make a comment on that at the time. Anybody that wishes to speak and address the council? Okay. All right, establish dates of our public hearing. Please read the consent agenda titles.
Establishing December 19th, 2023, the public hearing date for consideration of a transfer of microbrewery liquor license number 10 for Bullhorn Brewing LLC, doing business as Bullhorn Brewing, located at 2027 East Yellowstone Unit B, to Bullhorn Brewing LLC, doing business as Bullhorn Brewing, located at 355 West Yellowstone Highway. And establishing January 16th, 2024 as the public hearing date for consideration of council to sit as a board of equalization for the purpose of considering and approving an assessment roll for local assessment district number 160, Chinook Trail improvements.
Thank you. Chair to entertain a motion to by minute action establish the public hearing date just read.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Bond, seconded by Vice Mayor. Any abstentions or nay votes?
I'll abstain from item A1A, please.
Any other abstentions? Okay, all voting aye, say aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote.
With Councillor Pollock's abstention noted and all other councilors voting aye, the motion passes.
I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of an ordinance amending chapter 2.64 the Casper Municipal Code, removal of or censor of public officials. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do. Exhibit number 1, correspondence from Eric Nelson to City Council and J. Carter Napier dated November 29th, 2023. Exhibit number 2, add proof for publication in the Star Tribune on December 2nd, 2023.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, do you have a report?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Pursuant to the feedback and direction that the council provided, staff during the work session on this topic, the proposal that you have in front of you contains the ideas that indeed an effort to move forward with some sort of leadership removal or change would be subject to the request of the council, which is in the majority. Furthermore, the actual removal would require a subsequent supermajority of the same. The ordinance also allows for the party to that potential action being allowed to request a public hearing pursuant to the deliberation of the council in that regard. And so those items are what we understood were important to the council and important to show up into your draft. And any other direction or guidance or whatever could certainly be a feature of your deliberations throughout the 3 reading process.
Great. Thank you. Council will now listen to public comment. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. This time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of an ordinance amending chapter 2.64 to please approach the lectern. Those who wish to speak in favor. Good evening. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Robert Sweeney. I'm one of the members of the ownership group that's seeking the rezone change to the C2.
Oh, so this is
Oh,
for
this is
the separate ordinance. Yes.
Oh, sorry.
No.
There.
We're almost there.
Yeah.
Now that I know what you're here for, I will get you. I was all excited somebody was coming up to talk about this one.
Would you like to make?
Thank you, sir. Anybody that wishes to speak in favor of this ordinance? Okay. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the ordinance amending chapter 2.64 to please approach the lectern. Anybody that wishes to speak in opposition to this ordinance? There being no others to speak for or against the ordinance amending chapter 2.64, I now declare the public hearing closed. Please read the ordinance by title only.
Amending chapter 2.64 of the Casper Municipal Code, removal or censor of public officials.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to approve on first reading the ordinance just read.
So moved.
Moved by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilor Sutherland. Discussion. Councilor Pollock.
Question for Carter or Eric. Is the only mechanism by which this would turn into a public hearing process would be at the request of the leader in question? Is that correct? So there wouldn't be like should a majority of council desire a public hearing, that would not be there's no mechanism for that. Is that correct?
I think that's a fair assessment, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Casper, that is correct. The way it's drafted, it would be on the individual may be removed to request it to be discussed in a public hearing. It is not set up to have a full contested case hearing, but basically, the opportunity to be heard in a public forum. Absent that, the way it's set up is that council could elect to go into an executive session. And the reason I put could is because we're still subject to the requirement that you have a supermajority to vote to go into an executive session to deliberate. So I didn't think it was appropriate to mandate that in this ordinance. So I guess hypothetically, council could say, now we don't want to go into executive session and we'll just handle it in the public session. Obviously, any vote, any official action would have to take place in the public.
Thank you.
Other questions for the city attorney or for our city manager? Yeah, Councilor Bond.
So I just want to clarify on the draft ordinance that we're looking, so this is amending this current ordinance, correct?
Correct.
So the new portions is there new language in there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mayor, Counselor, so
Yeah.
2.64.030, that entire section is new.
Okay,
Everything else should be the same.
okay,
The way it's advertised is it's an amendment to that section.
Yeah.
So the whole section is published.
okay, gotcha. Okay, so it's really just that last 0.3.030, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay. Any amendments? Okay, any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye, say aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote.
All counselors voting aye, the motion passes.
Thank you. I think this is the one, sir. All right, no, you're good. You're enthusiastic. Please read the ordinance on second reading by title only.
Ordinance approving a zone change of lots 59 and 60, Longview Addition number 2, and lot 9A of the lot 9A and lot 9B Lucre Addition from PUD planned unit development to C2 general business.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve on second reading the ordinance just read.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Pollock, seconded by Councilor Gamron. Council will now listen to public comment. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. So if you're for or against, either or can come up to talk on the second reading.
Anyone want to go first?
Welcome back, Mr. Sweeney.
Hello, my name is Robert Sweeney. I am with the group that owns the property, formally requesting the rezone to C2. I just came to speak in favor of this. Can answer questions later if people have them. We're excited to be in Casper and to potentially work on a project in Casper and understand that this is the course of action we need to take so that in the future for the potential redevelopment, we have that ability. So we're just trying to clear the way.
Any questions? We appreciate you coming down and meeting with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any others who wish to speak for or against the change of the zone? Good evening, Mr. Darling.
Oh, there's.
He handled them well.
Don't start. I'm here with the residents of Gannett Street. We're doing it again. We approved the development. That's not a problem. If the problem is Gannett Street, I listened to the city manager and whoever this other guy was, the chief of police. No traffic problems. When you live in that 8-block subdivision, you come around the corner, everybody's learned to pay attention. The same is up on Gannett Street and Thelma. We've all learned to pay attention. The other problem we have is that whole line of houses up there, they have a hard time backing out without looking 8 different ways to get backed out on the street for the traffic, especially between 7:30 and 8:15 and between 3:30 and 4:30, give or take a little bit. It is thick. Trying to get out on the highway at those particular times, you got all the cars coming down the hill and the school buses using it. We got more traffic there on there than what these people realize. And it's only at certain times. You can go up there at noon and it's no big deal. Go up there at 7:30 and 8 o'clock, it's a big deal. This thing started a long time ago. This is like our 6th or 7th trip. But in 1960, it was rejected. The zone change was rejected 3 times before this. In 95, they tried it again. It was not allowed. Then it was allowed again. And the zone change was not allowed, but they allowed them to put the paving in. And put a down street parking on or curb cut on. We took it to district court and district court said, fine, go ahead, no problem. We took it to Supreme Court and the Supreme Court that time they made the zone change. And city attorney has a copy of the Supreme Court decision. And concluded that the parking lot was reasonable use, but the zone of the curb cut was not. Because it went onto a residential area. Also concluded that I'll read it to you. The commission concluded the parking lot was a reasonable use of subject property, but a curb cut into Gannett Street at lot 5859 was a hazard due to slight visibility for westbound motorists on Gannett. The commission passed a law to allow the parking lot to remain, but ordered the closure of the curb cut and additional installation of additional landscape. So then they came back in 99 and tried it again. It was rejected again, but the curb cut remained. The city never removed the curb cut. Then in 2000, they came back again, and this time in September, they came back with 2000. They came back with the idea, we'll make it a PUD. And that's where they put the parking or the benches and the parking or the benches and the picnic table in to make it a PUD. And it passed in November of 2000. So we're back fighting this thing again. We're not opposed to development. What we're opposed to is the additional traffic on Gannett. Now, if you put a TV story in there, you know bloody well that there's more people going to be using Gannett unless you shut that off. And that's what we're opposed to. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Any others who wish to speak for or against the ordinance? Okay. Discussion. Kind of see you leaning forward. Do I see both of you kind of going? So, Councilor Jensen.
Zone change, we have to take it away from my PUD. Why can we not get rid of that enclosure?
The curb
The
cut.
curb cut. I guess I'm hung up on that. Why we can't get rid of that?
So to me, and I don't know how council feels, I think, and this is in my ward, and I went down there a couple times and I've looked at it. I'm not opposed. I think it's a good move to do this as far as changing the zone. I think makes 100% complete sense. I think the next step after we go into it, I think, is to look at all of that. And I think the business owners plan on looking at and wanting to, this is how I feel, and I could be wrong, to look at it. And I think there's even in a process like this, when we change and do development, there's going to be traffic studies. There's going to be the idea of how do we look through this. And I think that's going to be the process that we go through it. I think this is one step. I think we got to look at it as the sense that we're changing the ordinance, changing the zoning, right? PUD to a C2. So I think we got to think of it that way. And then when we get to the next step, then we start looking at that next step. That's mine. So we deal with the cutout, we deal with traffic, we deal with that as the next step. And so I think we can't get ahead of ourselves, but we need to hear what my constituents are saying. I'm trying to make sure that I'm listening to that as well. And then we move forward with it. That's kind of how I look at it. And I didn't mean to talk first. My apologies.
No, but does he get that right? Do you understand that part? The gentleman that was just up
Oh,
here.
Jay, darling.
Does he understand what you just said?
I think so.
As far as the process
Yeah,
goes?
I've talked to Jay about it.
Stop sign on, the stop sign on.
Yes. If I have brought that up as well, Thelma and Gannett. Yep.
Drinking lines.
That's the next step. We'll fight for you then.
Councilor Bond.
Mayor, I just want to clarify again that the curb cut in question is the one coming out of the old bank. Drive-through, correct? Or is it the other one with the?
So the curb cut is the one, so there's like a little island
Right.
in the parking lot.
Right, okay.
And that separates, kind of stops it there. And then there's the curb cut.
Yep.
That goes onto Gannett. That's the curb cut that they've been talking about.
Okay. It seems like that the one that, it looks like that one comes out of the old bank drive-through onto Gannett. That one seems more problematic to me in terms of traffic because it's so close to that intersection.
I've learned to live with that one,
Yeah,
but we don't.
Yeah, hold on a second, Jay. Hold on, Jay. Yeah, thank you.
As a point of order,
Yeah.
this is an opportunity for council to discuss and.
Yeah.
that kind of.
Go ahead.
The reality is, Mr. Mayor and Councilor, the traffic study deals with these exact kinds of questions.
Yeah.
And there may be an outcome as a result of that study that suggests closing down that particular curb cut. Or doing things like the dog bone that's installed at the other one. That's why those studies are so vital, because they do try to anticipate the kinds of developments that would be going in and the modifications that may need to be made so that the traffic impact is as minimal as possible while accommodating the needs of the development as well.
And Mayor, I guess just, to me, I agree. I think the bigger issue is zoning change right now.
Correct.
And the curb cut issue can be dealt with
Correct.
in the traffic study and the site planning.
Yep.
Correct. Okay.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Counselor Pollock.
Thank you. Similar line to what you all are saying, I think we have two different issues that are related, obviously here, but the first issue, I'm in favor of the zone change, because there's nothing prohibiting this exact same development from happening in that space right now, and so either way, we have a separate traffic issue to contend with. I am curious about any contextual information either the two of you can provide around if there was a decision that mandated the closing of that curb cut. How are we to today with an operational curb cut still in place? If there's a Supreme Court decision.
Well, Mayor, Councilor, so the Supreme Court decision that was previously referenced from 1997 really had nothing to do with the zone change. There was a conditional use permit brought at that time, an ordinance that had specific criteria that needed to be addressed. And what the Supreme Court said is that the Planning and Zoning Commission for the city of Casper acted arbitrarily by not taking into account some of the traffic items. So appreciate that bit of historical context. I'm not sure that it really weighs in a lot on kind of the zone change issue that's before you today. I don't know the entire history from that point forward, because there was some discussion of, not allowing that curb cut because we didn't follow the correct process. What I don't know is after that, if that process was remedied, if there was then a change to a PUD, which basically made this kind of a moot decision, that type of thing. But I would just to circle back to, why we can't address the curb cut today is because zone changes cannot be conditional. And so you either have the ability to approve or deny the zone change. And then when the development is contemplated, then to the city manager's point, we get into this traffic studies, the site plan review, and that's when the city has the ability to say, no, that's not going to work. We need to do something different.
Counselor Sutherland.
Thank you for that. I guess just in terms of anticipating conversations that may occur during those traffic studies, are residents interviewed or engaged with at all during that process? Like, can we flag that for the future, that we make sure that their concerns are taken into consideration?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor, I think neighborhood input is always a good feature. And while I don't know that every single traffic study we've ever done includes that kind of a thing, I don't think it's unreasonable to put something like that together where the neighborhood can get together and provide some input and discussion and those kinds of things. I would tell you, however, as it relates to the practical nature of what the traffic study may tell you, while I have no doubt that the curb cuts are going to be dealt with as a part of that process, if indeed the traffic study does not conclude other factors that the neighborhood may find objectionable or the way that they would do things necessarily, we have to be prepared for the fact that the answers may not be consistent with everything the neighborhood may want. Curb cuts notwithstanding, I think that's a pretty easy expectation that will be dealt with. There may be other things, however, that may not comport with what the neighbors say every jot and tittle.
Any other comments, discussion? Yeah.
As a bit of a summary, what I understand is that basically the PUD allows more types of building than what the C2 does. Also, if you stick with the PUD, however, there's more paperwork to get it through. So by being a C2, it makes it easier from a paperwork standpoint to get the plan review and that portion of it taken care of when it comes back with the final site plan. Is that also a correct statement?
Mr. Mayor, I definitely would agree that by going a C2 route, you are narrowing the field in terms of the types of developments that can go in on the subject property. As it relates to the level of paperwork, that's a little more nebulous of a term that I'm not sure I totally understand.